Let's talk about Donald Trump. It's been 100 days of chaos, confrontation, and some calculated moves.
America is back.
You're gambling with World War III.
The U.S. will take over the Gaza Strip.
The way Trump approaches international affairs will alienate a lot of people.
Not so good for Europe, but they don't have clarity of how to act.
Trump's foreign policy has baffled foes, but especially friends. And one such friend is Europe. So in today's episode of Grey Zone, we look at Europe up close. How has Trump treated Europe in his first 100 days? Is Europe too dependent on the US? And why do experts think Europe needs to talk to Russia? I'm Ananya Dutta, and you're watching Grey Zone. By the end of World War II, the United States had emerged as a dominant global power. It pledged to rebuild Europe at a time when not just its soldiers, but its societies were left scarred. Washington spoke of shared principles, laying the foundation for what would become a lasting alliance. Over the years, the US built on that very promise. Like in 1947, the Marshall Plan committed $12 billion, humanitarian aid, but also a strategic move to contain the spread of communism. In 1949, NATO was born, a military alliance forged in the face of Soviet expansion that threatened the US's superpower status. The Cold War of the 1980s became another chapter of unity as both sides reinforced their commitment to collective defense. Then came 1989. The fall of the Berlin Wall symbolized the so-called Western ideals. The US needed Eastern Europe to integrate. They branded it with the brush of democracy, but wanted the nations to anchor within Washington's security blanket. From post-9/11 solidarity to the joint response against Russia's invasion of Ukraine, the US-Europe alliance has evolved, deepened, tested, and reaffirmed one geopolitical flashpoint at a time. Until Donald J. Trump entered the White House and upended the entire system.
Let's be honest, the European Union was formed in order to screw the United States. That's the purpose of it. And they've done a good job of it, but now I'm president.
What followed was nothing Europe had ever seen. The first blow came on day 40. Trump had been criticizing Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky and praising Russian President Vladimir Putin. This was already a U-turn from earlier US foreign policy. Trump's predecessor, Joe Biden, had called Putin a quote-unquote dictator. Fast forward a few months, we hear Trump calling Zelensky a dictator. Just as Europe was adjusting with Washington's revolving door, Zelensky was invited to the White House to sign a rare earth minerals deal. Europe thought it would get a brief moment of rejoice, but the meeting turned into a global broadcast nightmare, or as Trump called it, great television.
You're in no position to dictate what we're going to feel. We're going to feel very good.
You will feel influence.
We're going to feel very good and very strong.
You will feel influence.
You're right now not in a very good position. You've allowed yourself to be in a very bad position, and he happens to be right about it.
From the very beginning of the war,
you're not
Mr.
in a good position. You don't have the cards right now. With us, you start having cards.
Playing cards.
But right now, you don't.
You're
playing cards.
Mr. President.
You're playing cards.
Serious.
You're gambling with the lives of millions of people. You're gambling with World War III.
A day later, Trump made it clear that supporting Ukraine will be Europe's duty. From security guarantees to post-war rebuilding, everything should come from Europe. He made statements that could have been written in the Kremlin corridors.
Trump thinks that international relations can be explained in terms of the personal relationships between leaders. So if he has a good personal relationship with Vladimir Putin, he thinks that the US and Russia have good relations. That's ridiculous. Personal relationships are important. President Trump has a good relationship with Prime Minister Modi. I think we all know that. But it doesn't mean that issues between the US and India on trade, for example, are easily resolved.
The next blow came on day 73. Trump branded the day as quote-unquote Liberation Day. Trump walked in with large cardboards with a list of countries with tariffs imposed on them. Unexpectedly, Europe wasn't spared. Most countries faced a baseline tariff of 10%. What followed was a trade war. Markets seesawed furiously over the next few weeks, so much so that it prompted Trump to pause the reciprocal tariffs, but only temporarily. So the question is, has Europe learnt any lesson after 100 days of Donald Trump? Renowned economist Jeffrey Sachs might have the answer.
Europe hasn't learned much right now. Europe is very confused, I'm afraid. The problem with Europe is this is a world of big players. Well, the US has 335 million people, so by India's standards, not so big. India, more than 1.4 billion, approaching 1.5 billion. China, 1.4 billion. Russia, the largest landmass in the world of 11 time zones, rich in resources, and so forth. Europe is divided among 27 individual countries, and they do not have foreign policy heft. They don't have military heft. By themselves alone, they don't have economic heft. So they created a union to try to do better, but that union is quite weak.
You see, Europe is of the belief that Russia is its biggest threat. For the longest time, it has been saying that if Russia is invading Ukraine today, it will knock on Poland tomorrow. In the Trump-induced panic, European military leaders and pundits have spent the last few months talking about all the combat power that Europe doesn't even have. Poland, which by reason of size, location and topography, has been made into the eastern linchpin of European defense.
This is a moment for Europe, and we are ready to step up.
Today, with Putin's war against Ukraine raging on in full force and with the United States putting fierce pressure on its European allies, Germany, I think, is in a crucial position.
Experts think that this is the wrong way to go for Europe.
Europe has basically depended on the United States for its security arrangements. That has been, according to the Kissinger adage, not so good for Europe, but they don't have clarity of how to act till now. And so they're very divided. They don't understand how to make diplomacy with Russia, which they absolutely need to do.
So here we are, 100 days of Donald Trump, and its closest ally, Europe, looks more lost than ever. When we think of Europe, we often picture a united continent with one voice and one policy. But in reality, it has 44 countries, over 200 languages, and centuries of complex rivalries. It doesn't take much, and certainly doesn't take Trump to divide it. And here's the thing, the US president is doing exactly what he had promised. Europe cannot complain of being caught off guard. It should have known Trump is all about power and not partnership. So the real question isn't what Trump has done, it's whether Europe has learned anything.